Hello and welcome to a conversation with Dr. David Clayman. Conversation is the key word. We call this show a conversation because we talk about different problems, different issues. Now I want to talk about conversations that you and I should be having, conversations that we should be having with our families. And I want to start with anger because I think how many of us have relatives that have anger issues. I'm also going to talk about down the road marriage. How many of us have conversations before we get married? How many of us have conversations about death and dying? I always think about you with that. But I wanted to start with anger because there's been a lot of issues in the paper recently about people losing their tempers and pulling guns and shooting people and just response that is totally unnecessary.
Well, as with every one of the questions you ask me, OMG, it is so complex.
I know.
And we all have anger.
Yes.
Okay, except certain people that just are so spiritual that we all experience. I was walking in and some lady came into me and I said some words inside my head. I used to have a horrible temper. Horrible.
I've never seen your temper.
No, but I had a horrible temper. And don't anymore because I worked on it. And there's things you can do. But as I was thinking about this, I knew we have got a world that is not very pleasant in a lot of places now. We've got the gun issue. We had a woman in town a couple of weeks ago that talked about serial killers, and she's very, very bright. And she's now going to be talking about mass shooters. What would prompt someone, and we can start all the way back to Columbine and then all the other things that have gone on. What provokes people? And then they say it's mental illness. And it's no simple answer. Everybody has conflictive and hostile feelings inside them. Everybody does. Sometimes we internalize it, we turn it inward, and sometimes we turn it outward, and sometimes we do both. Sometimes people who are the most angry on the outside are equally angry on the inside, and they're just blowing it off and somebody triggers it and does it.
Overflowing.
Yeah, and I was trying to figure out a simple way to do this in a half hour, and we can't. I mean, this is, first of all, it's the experience of the individual who gets angry. That's one part of it. Then it's the impact that anger has on other people and how they respond back to the person that's angry. And we can go on and on. We have, and I used to run employee assistance programs in the olden days. And one of the things we were asked to do is do anger management or anger training or whatever else. And although now the literature talks about cognitive, like it does with everything else, we can use cognitive behavioral techniques, we were using those in the old days. And that was to help people recognize that their anger is not healthy for them or for others. Anger as an experience doesn't do your body any good.
No.
It can, and I'm going to did I tell you my lost sunglasses story yet?
I don't think so.
Yeah, that's the cure. That was the episode that actually brought me to understanding that I could control this completely. But I have. So here's the deal. People carry thoughts and feelings, and anger is an outward expression of negative feelings. It can range from a dirty look to horrible, vile words to aggression. Now remember, not everybody who's angry becomes aggressive.
Right.
So we have to deal with that. Not everybody who's angry goes to a pawn shop and picks up a gun and blasts their neighbor. That doesn't happen with everybody. So you have to decide where we start on the anger spectrum. Anger is generally damaging to the world around them. The people who express anger in excess.
I was thinking, my thinking was more in the family unit. The fact that how if I live with you and you are angry all the time, how that affects me.
Horrible.
And can I do something about that? Okay. Can a family member sit down and talk to you, or is that a worthless effort?
Well, no, it's not worthless if the person will sit down with you. I mean, So anger management. Why do people come to anger management? They don't wake up one day. I haven't seen anybody that says, "Oh, you know what? I'm an angry SOB."
Usually it's court appointed.
Well, yeah, or it's family triggered. It's much like most mental health people. Most people don't wake up one morning and say, "Gee, I want to go to a behavioral health person."
Right.
No, it's because the people around them are saying, "You're a pain in the patoot. You make me." Well, there's chaos. There's distress. There's stuff that's going on with the people that are receiving the anger that ultimately someone will get to the point to say, "You know what? Your anger is really damaging." And there are people who drink, who use drugs, and all that, who say, "I don't care." And then there we have spousal abuse. The people who are spouse abusers have significant characterologic symptoms inside them. They have needs to be in control, and when they feel they're out of control, they get angry to try to scare the person. So one of the functional uses of anger in pathological people is to scare people to keep them under control.
Wow.
Well, think about it. If you were raised in a hostile and horrible situation, and I'm thinking of my mother right now, not with anger, when she used to, we had the elbow rule
On the table?
on the table. And Helen, I never called her Helen, but Helen would say, "Your elbows are on the table." And sometimes we'd say, "So what?" At which point, the end of the knife would go bing on the end of your elbow. And then she could hit that funny bone. But it bothered her that we weren't doing it. And she expressed her frustration in a way, in that case, which is a form of anger. It's a form of expression of displeasure,
Right.
discomfort, fear, anxiety, insecurity. That's on the part of the person being angry. We haven't got to the family members yet. So all of that stuff, if you look at the literature, the number of things that are connected to that type of behavior are huge. And everybody that's watching the show, think about what triggers you. Standing in line. Sometimes, one of my favorite, I like when I do me because I'm such an idiot sometimes. My wife and I, when we moved into our new house, we were getting ready for her father's 70th birthday, and we had to get unpacked in 3 days. And we're working, and we love cats, and we had one of those terracotta cats, and I tripped, fell, and smashed the terracotta cat. At which point I got so darn angry, I was SF, for what? But it was my reaction to being upset with myself for doing something stupid, and that was it internally.
But wouldn't the bottom line be that you were stressed because you had to do something within a time period that...
I broke the terracotta cat, and it had value supposedly, and I didn't, and I felt stupid. So what do I do when I feel stupid? I acted angry at the world outside of me. I expressed it outward, which has a really a powerful thing. Let's talk about the impact of anger when people get angry. What does it do to the people around them?
You retreat. You
pushes you away.
You go away.
Alienates everyone, which is the exact opposite what most people want when they're angry. But there's a very protective role for insecure, upset, fragile, stressed. I can go on. Every one of the negative terms we can use for what happens to some of us can be a precipitant of anger. So it is universal. And what we look at is certain expression of anger can have positive benefits. It defines that someone's in trouble.
Okay.
It, for some people, it's motivating. If you get angry at an enemy or a force, it may push you into action, so that you beat the person for the position on the basketball team because you think you're better than they are. And if you get a little bit of anger, it motivates you to be a little bit more aggressive on the basketball court, and you get the pace. Mm-hmm. So there's places where it serves an unbelievable protective part for the angry person. It's also a way of people distancing folks. It's like hugging a cactus. An angry person is like hugging a cactus.
Wow, what an analogy.
Well, I've been doing this for ages, and that's the only one that's ever stuck. Sorry. And in this conversation, this is something I can't educate in. even a half hour, 2 hours,
No.
because it becomes really difficult. There's multiple layers. And currently what people are learning to do is they go into cognitive behavioral therapy work, which is very good, and they learn about anger, what it is, and they learn about ways they process the world around them, what triggers them, and what benefit they attribute to being angry. Power, control, distancing, just a huge expression of displeasure when they feel that they haven't been heard.
And some people could be angry and not even know that they're angry, and that they come across as angry.
Oh, that's something when we used to, when I used to do a lot of EAP and corporate work, I'd get referrals saying, Mr. Smith has got great capabilities, but he's a pain in the butt. He's always seems to be angry. And when you actually go into the situation, they don't see that they're angry. They come across as angry.
Right.
And so now we have what is viewed as angry in the people on the outside. How do you deal with that? And so here's the beginning. Can you get somebody to go into treatment or get help for being inappropriately angry? And that's where it begins, when it becomes inappropriate and excessive.
Right.
Where it can be damaging to people outside and even damaging to the person who is perpetually angry on the inside and sees the world as a threatening place. So when something happens, they get angry at the world that threatens them. So anger sometimes is a threatening action that comes from a person who feels threatened. And it may be a leveling thing. I've been doing that anger work now for about 45 years. And when I was an intern, we began doing that. And every person is so different. And some people have deeply rooted stuff like trauma, and things get triggered, and they don't even know where it comes from. And most people say, like, okay, the terracotta cat, I had no idea why I was tired. I felt pressured. I broke something I felt was of value to my wife, and I felt embarrassed. And so what do you do if you're embarrassed? Do you want to accept, hi, I feel like a complete jackass? Or do you get angry, and do you
deflect?
Yeah, so, and I'm doing that before we get to the people that buy guns and go and kill people.
Right, right.
So it's so pervasive, and when you say, can you do something? When people have an angry person in their family, first we'd look for emotional problems, bipolar, sometimes depression comes across as people get really, really angry when they're depressed. It's called it used to be called agitated depression. There are characterologic traits. If you've been raised in an angry family, what do you learn what's one of the coping skills you learn about? To get angry. If you were swatted on your butt when you were a kid, what do you do when you get older? When things are out of control and you want to bring somebody back into control, you get angry. I'm trying to keep all of them in my head. When people are disappointed, when they feel let down, when they feel betrayed, all of those things are sitting in someone, and if you get enough of that stuff, they blow up.
So hurt can come across as anger then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But it's simple things. Why should that person be able to get food when I can't? Why do I have to work so hard to get something that somebody else seems to have really happen easy? Why does that person get a promotion and not me? Why am I the one that was left off in a riff when people are downsizing, and not me? And that's when it begins, the insults that a person feels that are the result of the way they interpret the world, and sometimes the interpretation is not reality. And I just did an evaluation where a person was perceiving the world to be against them. Well, they had just gotten a new manager in their business, and the manager was changing things. And what happened was this person had certain duties and had been on a certain shift for 15 years. Everything was fine. Well, the new person came in and looked around and said, you had some skills that we really need on day. I'm making this one up.
Right.
We need on day shift. But I like evenings. I like to be able to work until go home. No, we're going to have to push it. And the anger that came out of this person. I mean, the swearing swept off a table with his arm and said, I don't need this place. And we got called for a fitness for duty evaluation. So I see the person, and charming human being, really sweet person, until I started talking about work. And the amount of profanity that came out of the person's mouth was amazing, and the vilification of everybody else was amazing. And he said, you know, this is the place that was really incredible. He said, one of these days, I may just have to bring a gun and let people know who's boss.
Seriously?
So my eyeballs go like this. I don't want to be the mental health professional on the news that missed that.
What do you do in a situation like that?
Well,
as a mental health professional?
Well, with everybody, I think, so if we go back to the family, if we have somebody, because we have a real problem with kids who are kind of born angry and are just nasty kids. So we learn de-escalation techniques, we learn ways to,
I mean, do you let this guy's boss know that he...
I had to, this was a legal issue. And here's an outside source saying to this man, hi, if you do this, you're going to lose your job completely. Let's talk about what's going on. And at that stage, if you are not part of the angry thing and you can sell that you're concerned, you can make a lot of, that's a lot of strides you can do. But I think for the families, one of the things is you got to check whether everybody else perceives mom or dad or Uncle Joe or the butcher or whoever it is as angry. First, if people feel somebody is angry and it's pathologic and it's causing problems, check with friends. Do you think that Sharon is an angry person?
Yeah.
No. Well, if you get a lot, it's your interaction, the way you're interpreting what you're not getting from that
Good
person
point. Yeah.
or the danger. So I would say to people, the first thing, if you've got an angry family member, make sure everybody else in the family checks out. Because if you're going to do, we used to call them interventions for drinking, but if you're going to approach the person, what do we hear? Well, John doesn't think I'm angry. And there goes everything.
Yeah.
Very often there should be a cost to the anger. If somebody continues to be angry and you try to talk to them like a father or a mother is being angry at the rest of the family, you have to bring it up. It's not easy. And you say, we can't go through all the words, but you say it, and then if there's one person in the family that's so afraid that they give in to the other person, the whole thing falls apart. So and this is like any hostile behavior that's going on in any place, work, schools. Now, the school thing, I still haven't figured all that out with the kids yet. Bullying, it's a good example. Kids who are bullied get super angry, but they very often turn it inside until they can't stand it anymore.
Yeah.
So the people that are, I really want to know more about the way people who have committed the mass killings. I was out in Las Vegas a couple months ago, and we went by where the guy had been shooting from the hotel. What prompts them to do that? Sometimes it is some paranoia, sometimes it is whatever, but you mentioned earlier the things that are energizing the side of the world that I don't particularly agree with all the time. Comes from being disgruntled, feeling left out, maybe not accurately, but you have to start with, hey, tell me about how you see the world. Teach me.
But those people take so much planning, so much laying out. I mean, you think about the man in Las Vegas taking the time to move all of that weaponry into that hotel and laying it out in such detail as to what he was going to do.
What kind of pain, hurt, anger would precipitate somebody to want to do that? And then when he's taking action to plan that event, for him, it may be a stress reliever. It may be that he feels he's actually finally able to do something, that he can change the world. And it's distorted.
Right.
And they're not likely, from all the work that we've done, they're not likely to come to a therapist and say, hi.
Yeah.
We see in the aftermath that they have seen therapists, they have been seeing psychiatrists, but they haven't told them about it. this is an interesting sidelight, and I think I mentioned this on the show several times. We had a lady up in the clinic that I was in internship with. She was, no, that was bad English. She was being seen by someone, and she was just terribly depressed and very, very angry. And one day she came in with pizza and her guitar, and she just said, "I've written a story, a song, and it was wonderful." And the next night she went and blew her head off on the side of a mountain. That's internalized anger turned inward. I hate to say it, but it blew us away. Just destroyed us in the clinic because we missed it.
You didn't see it coming.
We didn't see it coming. So to do this, I think maybe between now and our next show, you and I have a little discussion how we can break some of this down to spend a half hour so I don't have to try to, I went back to my notes from anger management stuff that I used to do. I was, geez, I got a half hour. This is like a full semester.
But I think the goal in the half an hour is to make someone think about it. Oh, that describes Henry. That describes my mother. That
Or
might
maybe
explain.
that describes me and why people don't like me. So let me give you my fun example. Most of my anger is when I'm frustrated that I can't get something done. And I've had it almost all my life. If I run into a block, I get really frustrated. And if somebody comes in and I act like a complete jackass, excuse me if that's not allowed on public television. So a couple months ago, because I'm getting older, oh dear, anger takes an awful lot of energy. And anger never, ever changes things in a positive direction unless you start taking action to create a new world. But for me, I just used to, and I'd stay angry for a while. So I went to the eye doctor. I'm looking at the clock for us. I went to the eye doctor, and I needed glasses. These are one of the ones. And I said, I just need a pair of sunglasses. Choose me a pair. I said to them, oh, choose me a pair. Really nice. So I got home one day, and I'm looking for my sunglasses. I can't find them. And I look everywhere. And I start off with a certain level. So here's the stuff. You have to look at what triggers you. You have to look how things escalate for you, and you have to realize there's things you can do about it. Mm-hmm. And I had been teaching this for years. I had one temper tantrum where something happened, and I threw a red pen. Something happened, and my secretary was standing there, and I threw a red pen, and it broke all over my desk, a ballpoint pen. Oh, and the thing that killed me, it did it over a paperweight my son made for me when he was in first grade.
Oh.
And I sat back, just as I did after I broke the terracotta cat. But I've had these moments when I get huffy. And I didn't realize that people around me did not want to be around because they never wanted to be in the blast zone.
Right.
Never thought of it. It was just me. I thought it was just me. So anyway, something happened to me that day, and I looked, took this flashlight in my car, couldn't find them. $700 glasses that I didn't know I spent $700 on. And I couldn't give them back. It really pissed me off. So I went in the house and grumbled, and next day I got in my car and I had to get something fell off the seat. And I had a flashlight under the seats, I did everything, but next to the post, next to a black seat with black interior, was a black case.
Of sunglasses.
And I went, oh my God, there they are. And I'd stopped being upset. So now I have self-talk. And I'm going to say to everybody that gets angry, ask yourself what actually will happen in the world around you, except if you're dealing with people.
Right.
When you're dealing with people, it's different. But when you're creating your own anger, this is a place to begin to learn. I now have this discussion. Oh, last night, I was filling my prescription thing, and I couldn't find one of my meds. And usually after I've looked a little bit, I get really angry. I said, you know what? It's not there. I'll call the doc, tell him I can't find it. It's not going to hurt me to miss it for a night. And I start doing that with keys, and because I'm getting older, wallet, whatever. And I found the thing, and I have not lost my temper now in over a year. I mean, I'm embellishing this a little bit, but what a joy. I'm not wasting, this is what I want out there for people with general anger problems, not big anger problems. you gain nothing from it.
Because you just brought it on yourself. That's another conversation down the road, is aging. Because there is an adaptation there.
There's a lot of frustration there.
There's a change, and like you, you reach a point where you're going to sit down, let it cool off, and think about it later. Because then you'll have reasoning. It's the same way as working. Yeah.
It's the old thing of count to 10. But if you begin, and this is a good place for us to kind of, for the first show, we know we're going to change as we get old. If we're going to deny that, it's crazy. I lose 20 yards playing golf, not a big deal. I can't focus. I can't do my work at the office now the way I used to. I have to adjust, and I get really frustrated. Or I'm driving on Route 68 between Morgantown and the Eastern Panhandle.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go. But I used to be able to drive that at my usual absurd speeds. And I've now said I've got one of two things. Either I have to, if I'm going to drive it, I may have to just drive at 60 rather than a little higher than that. I may have to anticipate things. I may have to pull off to the side of the road if I feel tired. I may have to make adjustments. But I don't want to. And one of the biggest things we have in families is when people try to take people's driver's licenses away from older people and take their ability to drive away. Control. Anger sometimes comes up when you feel like people are trying to take control and you have no power. And there we get to the bigger stuff. Now we still have to deal with regular anger in families, with kids that are violent, with spouses that are violent. So you have shows on battered women, spousal abuse, hostile work environments, kids. We have all of that to deal with, and then we get to the massive stuff now. When we were talking about this, how do you deal with somebody who's killed someone in your family, and the rage and the anger that comes there? I've done hundreds of murder cases, and one of the things I realized why I did them is because sometimes what I did helped them not have to do that. They still have pain, but they have closure because something's happened. Now I'm doing this quickly because I know we're almost out of time. This is a wonderful topic, and if you and I can find, I'll tell you what, I'll take you to lunch or breakfast one day in the next month. We can sit down and draw it out so we can really give people an idea of here's how it affects us personally every day and what we can do to diminish that in our own lives. And then the bigger social, why are people pulling weapons and killing people randomly? Or why do they go to work and only shoot the people that they feel have harmed them? Why do people show up at work and beat their spouses up? We had that happen here years ago in the DHHR office. It's a big problem.
Same thing is, why do we fight about COVID and why do we fight about politics?
Well, that's
it's that anger that boils. And on that angry note for the day.
Yeah, shut up, would you? Just kidding.
I thank you as always. On behalf of Dr. Klayman, I'm Sharon King. Thank you for watching the television network. Bye-bye.